Alright, hi everyone, this is audap. Let's check out a Winter's Daydream running on Series X. Of course, this game is available on every platform, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and Steam. So yeah, no matter what system you own or how you play, you could potentially play this game if you wanted. So yeah, let's check it out. Options here. Narration style. Text speed. You have to set autoplay here. How do I know if I want to do that? Oh well. Let's check it out. December 28th, Thursday. It's only the 28th of December, but snow is falling outside the train windows. There wasn't any snow back in Tokyo. Though the air was crisp and chilly, cold enough to make you burrow your hands a little deeper into your pockets, it didn't snow. It's different if you travel a little further north, though. It gets colder. Here, much, much earlier. Everything is cold in the northern countryside. Everything except people's hearts, as my dad likes saying. My dad can be pretty cheesy at times, but he might have a point. I've been living in Tokyo since spring this year. In the beginning, I was excited to get away from the dull countryside I was raised in, but, well, you know what they say, the grass is always greener on the other side, and people are never satisfied. When I left home, I soon discovered just how different the city was from everything I used to know. I lived in the countryside all my life, in a small town with a population of around 15,000 people. I'd taken it for granted that I knew the names of my neighbors and they knew mine. I thought it was normal that our family cat, Tama, would sometimes stay with the elderly Mr. Igarashi for days on end because he fed our picky feline better cuts of meat than we did. That is a loud game. Can we turn down the sound? Wow. Somebody's really in love with the music in this game. Okay, yes, please, slightly softer on your music. Jeez, how much did they pay for that music? Man, they're really trying to milk their money's worth out of that. One more time. It's only the 28th of December, but snow is falling outside the train windows. There wasn't any snow back in Tokyo, though the air was crisp and chilly, cold enough to make you burrow your hands a little deeper into your pockets. It didn't snow. It's different if you travel a little further north, though. It gets colder here, much, much earlier. Everything is cold in the northern countryside, everything except people's hearts, as my dad likes saying. My dad can be pretty cheesy at times, but he might have a point. I've been living in Tokyo since spring this year. In the beginning, I was excited to get away from the dull countryside I was raised in. But, well, you know what they say, the grass is always greener on the other side, and people are never satisfied. When I left home, I soon discovered just how different the city was from everything I used to know. I lived in the countryside all my life, in a small town with a population of around 15,000 people. I'd taken it for granted that I knew the names of my neighbors and they knew mine. I thought it was normal that our family cat, Tama, would sometimes stay with the elderly Mr. Igarashi for days on end because he fed our picky feline better cuts of meat than we did. It was only to be expected that the clerk at the nearby grocery store would give me a few extra sweet potatoes whenever I stopped by because he knew my younger sister, Otoko, was fond of them. My hometown was much colder than Tokyo during the winter months, and I can still remember scenes from my childhood where the snow piled up on the roads and fields a full 5 inches thick. Old roofs would strain beneath the burden of the snowfall, and my father would spend his days off work shoveling snow for our elderly neighbors. No matter how frigid the weather became in my small town, the people would always band together to help one another, spearheaded by gung-ho, eternally optimistic men like my father. In my old man's words, the hearts of the people were warm, even if their hands were cold. Tokyo, meanwhile, is completely different. In Tokyo, the streets are busy and the buildings are big, and the people, it's hard for me to describe them. That's because there are far too many of them. Tokyo isn't inhospitable per se, but it's not the most welcoming of places, least of all to a boy like me who grew up in such a secluded environment. I was afraid Tokyo would eat me up and spit me back out again. I think my parents were afraid too. Mom used to call every other day when I was first settling in. She was forever sending me bags of rice and locally procured persimmons, fearful I might be so overwhelmed by my new surroundings I would forget to buy food for myself. That, or maybe she worried I wouldn't know how. Fortunately, I had managed to make it this far. Though I was awkward and unsure in the beginning, I survived the hostile alien terrain of the big city. I joined the photography club at university and I made several friends. My time in the city wasn't as bleak or as scary as I feared it would be. In fact, I enjoyed it. 8 months later, I'd managed to make it back to my hometown in mostly one piece, with an expensive new haircut and expensive new shoes and expensive new glasses to show for my travels. My canvas bag lies on the ground at my feet. It's a small bag with only a few sets of clothes and a game console and my camera stashed away inside. I'm only going to be back for a handful of days. I plan to stay for New Year's, of course, because it's a family celebration and we, meaning me, my father, my mother, and my younger sister, always go to our local shrine together, but that's it. When the 3rd of January rolls around, I'll be on this old rickety train back home. I can't afford to miss the start of the new semester, not even for a couple days. Time, I have discovered, moves more quickly in the city than it does on the countryside. If you miss a single lecture, you'll be scrambling around for a week trying to recover the information that slipped through your fingers. Sometimes it's too late. There's not enough time. There's never enough time. I sigh as I stare out the train's windows. It's very dark, but the stars are particularly bright tonight. I think I can spot Betelgeuse out of the corner of my eye. It's the 3rd brightest star in the northern hemisphere. I know a lot about the stars. My grandfather liked to lecture me about the night sky when I was little. I wasn't particularly interested. I only cared about my handheld, but his lessons must have stuck. Can I see any other constellations out the train windows? It's hard to tell. My eyes, despite my brand new glasses, are unfocused. The snow doesn't help. The snowflakes fall slowly and lazily, swirling around the cool night sky like they have all the time in the world. Time. I yawn. Of course, it wouldn't snow in Tokyo. That would cause too many problems. It could interfere with the bus routes and train schedules. Schools would be shut, business meetings canceled, and everything would fall apart. All it takes is a day. Time is money. It can only afford to snow out here, in the middle of nowhere, because who is it going to inconvenience? The citizens of my tiny town, with its miserable selection of shops and only one high school? Well, like anybody cares. 15,000 people is nothing compared to the millions who reside in Tokyo. I can feel sleep creeping up on me. My arms and legs droop like unwanted plants. My head feels far too heavy for my neck, as though it's been stuffed full of newspapers. With a soft yawn, my eyelids fall shut, and my head leans back against my chair. I think I'm dreaming. In my dreams, it snows. It always snows around here. Though I missed my parents a good deal when I went away to Tokyo, I eventually learned how to live without them. I can even iron my own laundry now. It's nothing short of a miracle. I've always been on the short side for my age. I blame my mother's gene pool. With long feminine fingers and soft round cheeks, but I'm still 19 years old. I'll be 20 next year. I'll be more than double that in a couple of days. I am an adult, although I don't particularly look like one, and we all have to grow up eventually. When my parents saw me off at the train station last spring, my heart full of dreams and my head full of nerves, my dad put one meaty paw on my shoulder and told me there was nothing to worry about. "You're my son," he said. "No matter what happens, you'll do just fine. I have faith in you." At the time, I appreciated this vote of confidence, particularly when I had so little confidence in myself. I'd like to believe I'm capable of self-sufficiency now, but I still think about my father's words from time to time. His serious tone was quite unusual for my dad, who, despite being tall and broad-shouldered like a cop from a film noir, is always cracking terrible jokes. His sudden supportive attitude was certainly new. Whenever I watched television with my family on New Year's Eve, huddled together beneath the kotatsu, like penguins, my dad would point at the male idols on the panel show and say, "Look, you, I found the perfect job for you. Haven't you ever wanted to be a model?" Then he'd laugh and slap his knee, disrupting the top of the kotatsu so green tea spilled everywhere. I never imagined I'd one day miss my father, who was determined to poke fun at me at every given opportunity during my formative years, but I missed him more than I expected. As for my younger sister, however...
Hey, are you deaf? I asked you to pass me the vinegar.
I don't think I could ever miss her. Otoko might be part of my family, but we've never gotten on, despite how similar we look. She, like me, inherited her looks from our mother. Unlike me, however, her feminine charms aren't a source of amusement and derision. Otoko is shorter and slender, with a face shaped like an egg. She has clean skin, clear eyes, and the same long fingers I have, though her nails are always filed and polished, painted to match her outfit for the day. She's a pretty girl, there's no doubt about it, but... I asked you like 4 times. The vinegar, now. She's not exactly nice. In fact, nice is the last word I'd use to describe her. I'm sorry, I was spacing out. I'm tired from my trip.
You do look a little pale. Would you like me to run a bath for you, dear?
It's fine, Mom. I can do it myself later. My mother's always liked coddling people. Maybe that's why Otoko grew up to be such a... I sure hope you can do it yourself, being away from home for so long. A man's got to learn someday. My dad laughs raucously and slaps a hand on my shoulder.
Oh dear, if you're that tired, you should have some more green tea. It might wake you up after your long journey.
Mom begins to refill my cup of green tea without waiting for my response. She doesn't have to play the role of the perfect hostess with me. But telling my mother that would be a fruitless effort. I've long suspected my mother has a unique form of OCD. Namely, she just can't rest easy when there's food to serve and cups to fill. Maybe it's because she worked as a waitress in a ryokan for a few years. Or maybe it's because she missed having her family all together like this. I guess she wants to pamper me as much as possible while she has the chance. There aren't many people as compassionate as my mother. Apart from Mrs. Mishima, perhaps, who used to babysit me and Otoko when we were kids.
Oh, please.
While my mother is only too happy to attend to my needs, imagined or otherwise, Otoko is less enthusiastic.
You can't be that tired, you big baby. Tokyo's not that far away.
It's 6 hours and my connecting train was half an hour late.
Oh, poor you. Excuse me if I don't weep with sympathy. At least you get to live in the big city now. I'd kill to be in your position. Let's not talk about killing at the dinner table, dear. Whatever.
Otoko rolls her eyes. The motion is particularly effective given the ring of black eyeliner that frames her deep brown irises. Maybe I should try to diffuse the tension. The 4 of us might be a family, a model example of a nuclear unit, but I have been away for almost a year. It's only natural our reunion would be a little awkward. You can't expect everything to revert back to the way it used to be over a single meal. Oh, you don't need to get jealous, Otoko.
Don't call me that.
Whoops. I've forgotten how much Otoko hates it when people use her real name. How could I forget? She only chewed my head off about it 1,000,001 times ever since she turned 13 and started reading fashion magazines and learned to be self-conscious. Otoko never used to be this much of a brat when she was a kid. Puberty, beyond filling out her figure, did something rather frightening to my little sister. She might have blossomed on the outside like a beautiful flower, but her personality has withered on the vine. I'm sorry, Otome. Our family's name is Satome. Otoko prefers to go by a diminutive of that rather than her given name. Well, I can't exactly blame her. Otoko inherited her name from our maternal grandmother, but it's a pretty hefty burden to place on a fashion-conscious girl like my younger sister. While Otoko is written with perfectly innocuous characters, those for sound and girl, respectively, it's more commonly used to mean man. Otoko says as soon as she leaves home and goes to university, she's going to get her name legally changed. Mom tried to talk her out of it, but Otoko is as stubborn as a goat, and nothing can change her mind. That's why it's impossible to argue with her about anything. Anyway, Tokyo's not all that's cracked up to be, you know?
Oh, really?
Really. It's so big, and there's so many people, and it can be pretty noisy at times.
So, are you trying to show off now?
No,
Oh, it must be so hard for poor little you having to go all the way to the big city, or big bad city, while I'm stuck here in this dump with nothing to do for another 2 years. This town isn't so very bad, is it, Otome?
You don't want to grow up too soon. Enjoy your childhood.
What? I'm not a child. I just turned 17, Dad.
Nonsense. You still look like a little girl to me.
Please, you'd say that even if I was as old as Grandma.
Well, that's because no matter how old you get, you'll always be my darling little girl. Dad reaches over and ruffles the top of Otoko's immaculately styled hair. Otoko pulls a face and shuffles away, the legs of her chair scraping against the floor.
How many times have I told you not to do that, Dad? You're going to ruin my hair.
Dad just laughs. Dad laughs a lot. I yawn, fatigued, but not fatigued enough to forget to press my hand against my mouth. I have no desire to give my family an eyeful of half-masticated nikuchaga. Not on my first day back home. So, Otome, you want the vinegar?
That's what I said like an hour ago.
She obviously didn't make this request an hour ago, but I don't point that out. Getting into an argument about semantics would be an incredibly childish and petty, and I am an adult now. Here. I slide the vinegar over to Otoko. As expected, she doesn't thank me. I don't know why you couldn't have gotten it yourself.
And reached all the way across the table?
Otoko raises an eyebrow. She doesn't say, "What are you, stupid?" But that's clearly the message she's trying to imply.
You were closer to it than me. Anyway, you're supposed to be the man. Aren't you meant to look out for your little sister?
Sorry. I didn't think.
No, well, you never do. I guess some things don't change.
Yeah, that's where I agree with my sister, but she might be right. It's been many months since I saw her last, but she's still a huge brat.
So, honey, we're all curious. What's it like in the big city? You haven't been there a full year yet, but you already look different.
Oh, do you really think so?
That's right. You've got new glasses, haven't you? And I think you've gotten taller.
I look at Mom, hopefully, perhaps a bit too hopefully, and exclaim, "Huh? Really?"
In your dreams.
Thanks for bringing me back down to earth with a bump, Otoko.
So, dear brother, why don't you spill the beans? What's it like in the big city? I'm dying to know. Please enlighten us, little people.
Well, there's so much, I'm not sure where to begin. I don't really want to begin either. Not with Otoko glaring at me, her lips pursed like she's sucking on a bitter lemon. Or melon. I'm too tired for all of this. The train ride really took it out of me. I must be getting old. A clear stream of water cascades from the tap and drums against the stainless steel basin of the kitchen sink. Glossy soap bubbles dance in the air, shining with rainbows. Tonight's dinner was a veritable feast, painstakingly created for the sake of replenishing your energy after that awful train journey, to use Mom's words. I'm grateful Mom went the extra mile for me. Really, I am. Unfortunately, the sheer variety of side dishes Mom cooked has created a mountain of dirty bowls, pots, and pans. They're all stacked up on the right side of the sink, just like Mount Fuji in a miniature, but more precarious, of course. Still, I shouldn't complain. Mom cooked all this food for me. Knowing her, she's probably been in the kitchen since the crack of dawn. She's the kind of person who makes her own dashi stock and noodles. No store-bought food for us. I'm a very lucky son. Mom went through a lot of effort on my behalf, so it's only right I should clean up the mess my return home caused. Mom tried to wave aside my offer to help. Don't be silly, dear. You can't wash up in your state. You must be exhausted. But I remained firm, despite the fatigue that had crept up on me. I hid my lethargy as best I could around Mom, but now she's pottered off to the living room with Dad. I can't quite stifle my yawns. The soap bubbles dance before my drooping eyes like something from a dream. Idly, I reach out and touch one. Its shining spherical surface is slick and wet to the touch. For all of 2 milliseconds before it bursts. It disappears without a trace, as though it was never there. Unfortunately, the pots and pans remain, and they're not going to go away if I stand here spacing out. If only Otoko would help a little. Mom told her to lend a hand, but...
Hey, aren't you supposed to be doing the drying?
Or, what? Hey, aren't you supposed to be doing the drying?
I don't feel like it.
But Mom asked you to help.
Maybe she did, but Mom isn't here to tell me what to do right now.
Not like you ever listened to her anyway, or anybody else for that matter. I sigh. I've only been back home for a few hours, but Otoko's already starting to get on my nerves. Look, I've had a busy day. I'll do the washing. The least you could do is run a cloth over these pots and pans.
And ruin my nails? No thanks. I just painted them yesterday.
I don't know why you bother painting your nails anyway. Nobody's going to see them.
Shut up. I didn't ask for your opinion.
Otoko's sitting in the kitchen table, her head propped up with one hand, the other idly flicking through a fashion magazine. Our cat Tama, meanwhile, is lying on top of Otoko's lap. The sight stings. I've always loved cats, and I nagged my parents for one the moment I was old enough to form basic sentences. Not really sure why I was so obsessed, but the prospect of owning a cat sounded absolutely magical to me during my childhood. I begged and begged and begged until my mother finally caved in to my demands and bought me a cat for my 8th birthday. And that was Tama. Tama came with a caveat that I had to look after her by myself, but I didn't care. I was happy to have a cute feline friend of my very own, who I would love and cherish, and who would love and cherish me in return. Unfortunately, like most things in life, it didn't quite work out like that. Tama never liked me. When she lets me pet her, which is rarely, she does so under duress, her eyes narrow and her back rigid, ready to bolt at any moment. Tama's always preferred Otoko, though I'm the one who used to feed her and empty her litter tray. Cats don't know the meaning of the word loyalty. Probably because they're cats, not humans. They don't have the thumbs we do to flick through dictionaries. Oh, whatever. I often wondered if Tama likes Otoko because they're so similar. They're both temperamental, selfish, and self-centered. Otoko is the only one who can carry Tama in her arms, and the only one who can make Tama purr. Tama's purring right now, in fact, her fluffy body vibrating. The sight is rather cute. It's a shame she never acts cute around me. Am I really that unworthy? Otoko. I tried to cajole my sister once more, but she's glaring at me, and I soon realized I've slipped up. Good God, trying to have a conversation with my little sister is like picking up my way through a field full of landmines. Sorry, Otome, you think this is a little unfair? Life's unfair. But I only just got back home. I shouldn't have to do all the washing and the drying myself. I don't know why you're complaining. You're the one who volunteered. I know, but you're such a suck-up, you. You're always trying to score brownie points from people by acting like a good little boy. I'm not a boy. I'm nearly 20. Is there anything wrong with helping others? I don't trust guys who act too nice. They always want something in return. I just want you to help me do the dishes. And the saucepans, and the pots, and the cutting boards, and the bowls, and the plates, and the chopsticks. Alright. I know there's a lot, but come on. I'm doing most of the work here. Because you were so eager to help. Well, whatever. Whatever. I'll give you a hand. On one condition. What's that? I know Otoko too well, even if I haven't been back home in a while, and there's a painfully high chance her singular condition will be something unpleasant. I hope she doesn't ask me to put wasabi in my eyes. She's threatened me with worse before. But she doesn't threaten me, and neither does she ask me to injure myself for her amusement. Instead, she says brazenly, without a shred of embarrassment, I want a present. Pardon? I said, numbskull, I want a present. And what did you want? And what did you deserve? And what did you deserve to have a present? Isn't that obvious? No. Jeez, you're so dense. Otoko rolls her eyes. You went all the way to Tokyo, duh. You should have picked me up a souvenir or two. I wasn't on holiday, Otoko. I mean, Otome. Sorry. Like I was saying, I wasn't on holiday. I was studying at university. You know, to get a job. But you were still in Tokyo. Yes, and... I was looking for a bikini. Maybe something like this. Otoko turns a page in her magazine and holds it up for my inspection. And this one here, too. They're both cute, but they don't sell any nice clothes in this crappy little town. Go to the next town over, then. I have. They never have what I want, either. But I'm sure they would in Tokyo. I heard the boutiques there are huge, and the malls. It all sounds amazing. I'd love to go shopping in Ikebukuro or Shibuya. Clothes and shopping are probably Otoko's second and third favorite topics of conversation, respectively, but clothes shopping beats them out by a wide margin. The one-sided discussion has actually managed to bring a rare smile to my sister's lips. For a moment, she actually looks like a sweet, charming girl. But the moment soon ends. Otoko sighs and leans back in her chair. The legs screech against the floor unpleasantly. Tama's ears perk up. She's always been sensitive, even to the slightest sounds. Though comfortable a few seconds ago, our finicky cat suddenly gets to her feet, or paws, I guess, and hops onto the floor. I've never been to a mall before. I want to go. It sounds like fun. Malls aren't really that interesting. They just have lots of shops. That's easy for you to say now that you have all these opportunities. You get to go to a huge metropolis like Tokyo, and you don't even think to bring your little sister back a present? I'd kill to find clothes like this. She points at her magazine again. around here. You have enough clothes already. It's true, too. Otoko's closet is full to bursting with outfits, and she's the kind of person who buys clothes compulsively, wears them once, and forgets about them. Truly, this is Western decadence at its finest. But I don't have the clothes I want. We can't always have what we want. Aren't you the one who said life is unfair? You could at least have asked me if I wanted any presents before you came back. Then you could have brought me back something nice. Oh, but why would I buy my own sister a bikini? That's kind of weird. So, you won't get me a gift? It's too late now. I'm already back home. Otoko rolls her eyes. You could buy it when you get back and have it posted to me later, genius. Then you might as well order online yourself. You're missing the point here. If I had to do that, it wouldn't be a present. And why do you deserve a present? You're so selfish. All you do is sit on your behind while I do the work. That's because you offered like a moron. Right, that does it. I step forward to... Do what exactly? I'm not sure. Throwing my wet towel at Otoko's face is the first thing that comes to mind, but I don't get a chance to wreak my revenge. That's because, at that exact moment... Tama? Something small and furry entwines itself around my unsuspecting ankles. I stagger around like a drunkard, arms flying out for support, but there's nothing to grab onto. I teeter, I totter, and then, quite spectacularly, I fall. My behind hits the floor with a dull thud. My head smacks against the back of the kitchen cabinets, while the small of my neck catches against one of the handles. Oh, holy... I curse under my breath. It hurts. It hurts a lot, actually. Tama, of course, escapes relatively unscathed. She gives me a withering look and darts away, her tail held proudly aloft. Otoko snorts. You're such a klutz, you. That's what you get for refusing to buy me, your only sister, a fitting present. I grit my teeth together and count to 10 inside my head. If I don't, I'll end up saying something I regret. Otoko really is impossible. December 25th, Friday. Breakfast the next morning is an awkward affair. Otoko, who's sitting opposite me at the table, barely gives me a second glance. Her entire attention is directed at her miso soup with laser-like intensity. Is she really that upset I didn't agree to buy her a bikini? Why should I, anyway? Knowing Otoko's taste, the scanty strips of fabric tied together with flimsy strings that she covets would cost more than a meal capable of feeding a whole family. Besides, I have no real desire to loiter around the women's swimsuit section in any clothes store, especially not for the sake of my sister. I know Otoko wouldn't appreciate it, and I didn't go to Tokyo to buy my family gifts. I'm not a tourist. I live there now. It's my home. But this town used to be my home, not so very long ago. Things really have changed during the last 8 months. Though Otoko is trying her hardest to avoid me, there's something softly nostalgic about this scene. In fact, it's nostalgic precisely because she's avoiding me. I suppose Otoko's foul temper is, too, just part of my daily life. My old life. We used to get on well enough when we were younger, but we haven't for a few years now. I don't know why. I don't think I've ever done anything egregiously terrible to her, other than call her the wrong name from time to time. I make that most of the time. Still pondering, I fish a cube of tofu out of my miso soup and pop it between my teeth. It's smooth and silken, imbued with dashi stock, and has a deep, richer flavor than any tofu I've tasted before. Mom watches me expectantly, a small smile on her face. How is it, dear? Oh, really great. I return her smile with one of my own. Have you gotten even better at cooking? Oh, stop. You're trying to flatter me. Well, maybe. If you keep it up, you'll get seconds. You see if I don't... If you keep it up, you'll get seconds. You see if you don't. Okay. That sentence makes a little sense. We'll just move on, shall we? That was the general idea, yes. When did you become such a smooth talker, you? Being in the big city must have taught you a thing or two about flattering the ladies. Oh, please. I'm no lady. I'm old enough to be his mother. Ugh, gross. Get a room, you two. That's the most I've heard from Otoko during the past 20 minutes. I swear being with her is like trying to squeeze blood from a stone, but at least stones can't pull faces and call you gross. Not even the stones in the mythical land of Tokyo. So, do you want another helping of miso soup, honey? Yes, please. I hold up my bowl and Mom takes it, bustling off to the counter to fetch my top-up. And what about the rice? You have enough? Well, I guess a little more can't hurt. That's right, you're still a growing boy.
You need to eat to keep your energy up, especially now you're back home. Sometimes I worry about you in the city, you. I don't know if you're eating enough or eating the right things. I think he's eating more than enough, Mom. I mean, look at him.
Well, what do you mean?
Isn't that obvious? You're going to end up like Dad if you're not careful.
Well, it's about time he started taking after me. I've always thought he was too skinny.
Oh, don't you worry. He's looking more and more like you by the day.
Stop being stupid. Cut it out. I glared at my little sister bitterly. When she was being silent, part of me wished she would say something. But now that she's opened her mouth, I want nothing more than her to keep it shut. There are a handful of things in the world that should never be opened, no matter what. The first is the sealed-off entrance to Azanami's tomb. Azanami's tomb? Really? Okay. The second are the tubs of my grandmother's homemade natto sauce. The third is Otoko's mouth. My mom hands me my bowl of miso soup, now filled to the brim, and exchanges it for my half-finished bowl of brown rice. She goes to the rice cooker, ambling good-naturedly. She hums while she scoops more rice into my bowl, then returns it to me with a smile.
Here you go, sweetie. Enjoy.
Oh, thanks. I try to sound enthusiastic, but my good mood has begun to wane. I poke at my cube of tofu in my miso soup. It bobs like a rubber duck in a bathtub. I know Otoko's trying to get at me, and I don't want to give her the satisfaction of winning, but now it's impossible for me not to feel self-conscious. Have I really put on weight? I don't think I look any different than I did 8 months ago, but Otoko's forever poring through fashion magazines and peering at her reflection in the mirror. She probably has a better eye for looks than I do. I guess I have been eating out more than I used to. It's to be expected, really, when there are so many restaurants and fast food places in Tokyo, and I live next to a McDonald's that's open 24/7. Scarfing lukewarm chicken nuggets at 3 in the morning while working on an essay due later that day is peak student living.
Oh, I thought you said you were hungry, you. Why are you picking at your food like that?
I'm fine.
Fine, he says. You're gonna look like that little yellow monster if you're not careful.
Oh, is that such a bad thing? I've always thought he was pretty cute.
I mean, his version from the first games with the round, chubby belly.
Otoko. Hey.
Hey!
Otoko kicks the leg of my chair beneath the table.
That's Otome to you.
Her kick upsets the table, and my precariously full bowl of miso soup splashes all over the table onto my lap. Oh, it's uncomfortably hot, and I hiss beneath my breath. Otoko, be more careful.
I think you're the one who needs to be more careful, you. Just look at yourself.
Look at you. You're so childish. You need to grow up.
I think you've grown up a little too much, dear brother. Or not up, but out?
Why, you...
Now, you two. Try to behave, please. You're not children anymore.
That's right. Be nice to your sister, you.
That's right, you. Be nice to your sister.
I grit my teeth together. Being the oldest sibling, I'm always the one who gets in trouble no matter what Otoko does. Her parents are soft on her. Dad always wanted a daughter, I think, so they let her get away with a lot. It doesn't hurt that she's so pretty. I want to stamp my feet on the floor and say that isn't fair, but I know doing that really would make me seem like a child. I'll have to try to bear it. Or will I? All of a sudden, I'm hit with a bright idea. You know what? I was thinking about visiting Grandma today.
Huh? Why would you do a stupid thing like that?
To an outsider, Otoko's reaction might seem rude, but I think she has a valid point, for once. Umiko is our paternal grandmother and our only grandparent who's still alive. She lives even further out in the sticks than we do, if you can imagine such a thing. Her house is situated in a village far littler than this town, a good 40 minutes away by train. The train chugs along an old semi-abandoned track that's rusted and overgrown with weeds. There are no buildings for miles around. No streets, no houses. Just flat, seemingly endless, expansive fields. I think about 300 people call my grandma's teeny-tiny village home. I'm surprised it hasn't been bulldozed over to make room for a highway yet, but maybe the planners and the local government don't even know the village exists. It's so out of the way, more birds live there than people, building their nests in the holy roofs of all the abandoned houses. I used to hate our family visits to Grandma Umiko when I was little, but now I'm starting to think that the peace and quiet of the countryside would be good for me. It'll certainly be more peaceful without Otoko around. I'm being serious. I haven't seen Grandma in a while. If I let this moment slip by, who knows when I'll get the next chance.
I don't understand why you'd want to take this chance. We had to go there this summer and it was so boring. I got bitten to death by bugs too.
Oh, you know how it is. She's getting on in years, and if I want to see her, well, just in case. You don't need to worry about my mother. She's a tough old bird, tough as they come. I know, but it really has been a while.
Weirdo. Well, I think it's a nice idea. Umiko's always been fond of you, and she's only been to Tokyo a few times in her life. I'm sure she'd love to hear how you've been doing at university.
Oh, then I'll go and I'll call her right now.
Yes, you do that. But do you have any idea when you'll be coming back?
I'm not sure yet. It takes a while to get out there, and the trains and buses don't run very often.
Maybe they'll all get canceled and you'll be stuck in the mountains for months and months.
Why does Otoko sound so pleased about that prospect? If that happens, I'll change my name to Heidi and start rearing goats. Otoko snorts and rolls her eyes, but doesn't add any further comment. That is, if a mumbled freak under her breath counts as further comment. Just don't stay with your grandmother for too long. We want to spend time with you too. Don't forget, it's almost New Year's. We need to visit the local shrine together, as a family. That's what we always do, isn't it, dear? That's right. New Year's wouldn't be the same without you. I know my mother's a fun old woman to be around, but she's always doted on you, but don't let her take up all your time. Don't worry, I'll only be gone a day, 2 at most. That's what you say, but all your days are precious. You're my only son, and I really have missed you. Oh, and I'm Grandma's only grandson. I'm sure she's missed me too. More than Otoko has, at any rate. My little sister is reclining in her chair, chopsticks in her mouth, idly pushing a piece of tofu to one side of her cheek, from one side of her cheek to the other. When she sees me looking, she scowls and turns her head away. And I thought little sisters were supposed to respect their older brothers. Why did I have to get stuck with Otoko? I phoned my grandmother after breakfast, and she sounds more than happy to accommodate me for a few days. At least somebody is. Luckily, I don't have too much to pack. I was so tired after dinner last night, I didn't have time to take out all of my belongings out of my rucksack. I retrieve my bag from my bedroom, then make my way downstairs. Tama is meandering about in the entrance hall by our shoes. She sniffs my sneakers curiously, her pink nose twitching, her head cocked to one side. Maybe my scent has disturbed her. Cats are incredibly territorial, and it has been 8 months since I last came back here. Do I smell unfamiliar to her now? Maybe she thinks I'm a stranger, a hostile invader. Oh well, Tama never liked me anyway. Shoo, shoo! I wave a hand at Tama's direction as she hisses, scampering off down the hallway, her tail stuck up in the air like an aerial, as it so often is. Stupid cat. I take a seat on the stairs and slide my shoes onto my feet. You could act a little nicer to me, you know. I don't see why she should. You're never nice to her. Oh. I glance upwards, meeting my sister's narrowed eyes. Oh, it's you. Jeez, and you say Tama has personality problems. You're the one who should be acting nicer to you. And why is that? You should be more appreciative that I came to talk to you before you left. Duh. Yes, I'm overwhelmed with emotion that a goddess such as yourself deigned to materialize before a mere mortal like me. Quite literally, too. I didn't hear Otoko's footsteps as she approached me. Maybe she really did materialize out of thin air. And then again, it's more like Otoko is so skinny her feet don't make any telltale noises as they touch the floor. Otoko doesn't eat much. She picks at her food daintily like a baby bird and pushes things around in her bowl on her plate, but not very much actually goes inside her mouth. Maybe she's trying to get that perfect bikini body at the end of December. Otoko might not be the nicest of girls, but you can't say she isn't dedicated. So why are you here? You gonna beg me not to leave? Will you miss me after all? Ha! As if. I should have known. I just came to give you this. It's so you don't starve. Otoko thrusts something in my direction. It's a small lunchbox wrapped up cutely in a pink and white spotted handkerchief. The handkerchief is tied at the top in a neat ribbon, keeping the separate layers of the box held together. It's a very sweet gesture. At least it would be if Otoko weren't scowling. But it doesn't match my younger sister at all. What is she playing at? Are you really giving this to me? Well, duh. Who else would I be giving it to? Ask a stupid question, I guess. Why are you sitting there gawping? You'll let flies in. Oh, sorry. I just didn't expect this. A cutely packaged lunchbox is the very last thing I'd expect Otoko to hand to me, unless the contents are poisoned, of course. Younger sisters in TV shows are usually sweet and doting. They worry about their older brothers, fuss over their health, and make them delicious food. It's a shame these girls only exist inside the TV screen. My little sister is the exact opposite of all that. That's why this situation is so surprising. By any chance, did you make this?
No.
Otoko rolls her eyes.
Mom did, obviously.
Oh, right. Of course. As if Otoko would ever cook for me. I'm not sure if Otoko can cook in the first place. Though a lot can change in 8 months, and even if she could, she wouldn't waste her culinary prowess on me. She hates me. Well, thanks for giving it to me.
It's nothing. Mom told me to. If she hadn't asked, I wouldn't have bothered.
I figured.
Now take it. Hurry, hurry.
Otoko shoves the lunchbox in my hands, scowling. She uses so much force I almost drop it.
Now get going. Sick of looking at your idiotic face.
Well, thanks, I guess.
Whatever.
I rattle the lunchbox curiously with one hand. I don't know what's inside, but I can hear the sound of food sliding around, hidden from my prying eyes. What could Mom have made for me for my journey? There'll be rice, no doubt. That's a standard. Rolled egg omelet, too. Maybe small hamburger steaks or fried chicken.
Don't shake the lunchbox like that. You'll ruin it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now, what are we waiting for? Run along. You'll miss the train if you don't, and then you really will be stuck with me. Wouldn't that be awful?
I open my mouth ready to retort, but I don't know what I should retort with. I never seem to know when I'm with Otoko. It doesn't really matter, though, because she turns about on her heels and stalks off in much the same manner Tama did earlier. If Otoko had a tail, I'm sure it would be sticking up in the air. I watch her from afar, sighing. Thanks for your concern. Well, I can always look on the bright side. I doubt my relationship with my lovely sister can get any worse. If you're already at rock bottom, there's no place you can go other than up, right? My train journey is relatively unremarkable and would be perfectly silent were it not for the rattling of the train's old wheels against the track. I'm one of the only people sitting on this old juddering car. There's a woman with brown hair holding a bouquet of white lilies in her lap, and a man with a young boy, his son presumably, resting against his shoulders, a stuffed bear clutched to his chest, but that's all. Otherwise, this carriage is utterly deserted, just like the flat, featureless countryside that speeds past us. I stare aimlessly out of the windows, which are frosted over with powder snow icing. The rice fields and hedgerows are pure white. All the trees have been stripped of their leaves. The cool wind runs through them, making them shiver. The unused handrests sway precariously above my head. Why are there handrests on an old train like this? Nobody needs to stand. There are always free seats available. Not enough people live around here. There aren't any houses, just fields. The handrest seems like a useless expense, rocking pointlessly to and fro with the motions of the train. It's cold inside the train compartment, and my every exhalation of air mists up the windows. The young boy clutching the bear mumbles incoherently in his sleep. A strand of drool drips slowly from the corner of his mouth, and his father wipes it away with a crumpled tissue. This tender, gentle gesture makes me think of my mother, and how she would always baby me when I was that boy's age. She still babies me, even now, though I'm almost 20, but it really isn't the same. I'm getting older, and nobody can stop the inevitable march of time. During the long journey, which lasts a good half hour longer than it has any right to, I eat my lunch. Mom did a wonderful job, as usual, like usual. There's brown rice, as expected. My mom favors brown rice over white. She said it has more flavor. Accompanied with rolled egg omelets, cherry tomatoes, crispy fried chicken, and slices of apple. Mom used to make lunches like this for me back when I was in elementary school. If I ignored my reflection in the train's windows, I can almost fool myself into believing I'm a small child again. I close the lid on my empty lunchbox and set it onto my lap. Resting my fingers on the box, I turn my head and look outside the window at the sugary snow clinging to each and every surface. I feel like I'm trapped inside of a snow globe. The biggest snow globe ever to have been created. When the train finally pulls into the station with an unpleasant screech of brakes and a flurry of powdered snow, I almost feel remorseful. I was enjoying my journey, and I wasn't the only one. The woman with the lilies jolts, her eyes wide. I think she was starting to nod off, clinging to her slightly crushed bouquet like some sort of talisman. Little boy with the stuffed bear jerks wide awake likewise. He glances about the almost empty train compartment and the abandoned train station and blinks, his eyes filled with tears. Then he starts to cry. I really don't blame him. I used to feel like crying whenever my parents took me to this tiny village too. It's so unkempt and run down, and it only inspires vague, uneasy feelings of depression. The dilapidated old train station, though station might be a bit generous when there's only one platform, tempers one's expectations for the village beyond it perfectly. It's dull and desolate, and almost entirely removed from the real world. All the same, I think I've gained a newfound appreciation for peace and quiet after living in Tokyo. It's relaxing, even if the young boy's tears aren't. The boy's dad leans over, attempting to console him, but I pay them little heed. I get to my feet, pulling my luggage out from the rack above my head. It's time to get going. My grandmother greets me cheerfully when I arrive at her home. She rattles off all the usual unpleasantries while I take off my shoes in the entrance hall. How much she misses me, how happy she is to see me, and how I'm welcome to stay with her for as long as I like. Once my shoes are removed and lined up beside my grandmother's winter boots, she ushers me into the living room. It's not until we're both seated beneath the kotatsu, the heater beneath warming our feet, that she says the fateful line all grandmothers say to their grandchildren when they haven't seen them in a few months. My, you really have grown. It's as predictable as clockwork. I wonder if there's some kind of script that grandparents operate from, or maybe an obscure law. As I ponder this, I look down at myself and frown. Have I really grown taller? Oh yes, definitely. To be quite honest, I can't see any difference. I think my grandmother's being a little too optimistic. Either that or she's shrunk down the last few months, which isn't beyond the realms of possibility, actually. Strange things happen to our bodies as we get older. Oh, I think I look the same as always. Maybe to you, because you see yourself in the mirror every day. It's hard to notice changes when it creeps up on you. I guess. It's different for me. I don't see you in 8 months, and you shoot up like a bean sprout. I think Mom said something like that yesterday, too. Hisako did? Yeah. Then I take her word for it. She has a good eye, that woman. Oh, Dad didn't seem to notice, though. Well, Kaname wouldn't. He can't see more than 5 feet past his own face. For all of Hisako's smarts, I don't know if she made the right decision when she married my son. Though as Kaname's mother, I'm glad she did. He needs a woman to help guide him in my absence. Right. My voice trails off. I'm not sure what to add to that. My grandmother is a strange woman. She likes teasing people, particularly my dad. And she jokes around so often it's hard to tell when, if ever, she's being serious. She reminds me of a little fox, actually. She's easily as devious. I sometimes wonder how she managed to raise a straightforward man like my father. Anyway, would you like some green tea? I can always brew you a cup. Oh, you don't have to. I don't want to cause you any trouble. Taking care of my beloved grandson is never any trouble. I might be old, but I'm not that old. She has a point. Grandma Umiko might be in her 80s, but she's as energetic as a woman half her age. Her spirit is very much alive. But her body betrays her years. Her fingers are long and skinny, her face ingrained with wrinkles, and her eyes would be horribly unfocused without the aid of her glasses. Despite all this, however, my grandmother pulls herself to her feet with a smile beyond betraying no weaknesses. For such an old woman, her tenacity is quite impressive, but I am worried all the same. Oh, you don't need to make tea for me. I can always help you. I push my palms against the surface of the old kotatsu, ready to get to my feet. But... now, that will never do. Sit down, dear. You're the guest, and I see you so rarely these days. I want to take care of you while I have the chance. I'll get that tea for you in a moment. Right. Well, thank you for your hospitality. You don't need to be so formal, dear. We're family. Sorry. And you don't need to apologize either. So, sorry. I catch myself before I can make the same mistake twice, and my grandmother smiles fondly. Oh, you really are Hisako's son. She's very polite, too. A model woman, in fact. I think you're more like her than my Kaname. Is that a good thing? It is what it is. No matter who your parents are, you're still you at the end of the day. Right. So, the tea. You do like a green tea, don't you? You'll have to forgive my poor memory. It's been such a long time, I've quite forgotten. A green is fine. Good. It's all I have at the moment anyway. You Kanade always loved my tea, but... oh well, that's in the past. Now, would you look at me rabbiting on? I need to get that kettle brewing. The work of a hostess is never done. My grandmother pads out of the living room, her footsteps cushioned by her cream slippers. I begin to glance around in my grandmother's absence, letting the heat of the kotatsu soothe my weary feet and aching legs. My grandmother's home is quintessentially Japanese. Walls are supported with wood. The floor is made from tatami mats, and the doors are sliding screens. This kind of architecture feels almost rustic for my time spent in Tokyo. Wait, one of these is a save button, isn't it? Am I missing something here? My apartment has a distinctly Western feeling. There are no tatami floors, and there's not much wood either. There are a lot of smooth, shiny plastic surfaces, however, and I sleep in a bed instead of a futon. I guess it autosaves? Not really sure. Well, we stop it there. This is audap. I'm watching A Winter's Daydream running on Series X. Once again, this game is available on all platforms. PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC. It's obviously a very low-budget visual novel. I mean, I haven't had to read everything in a visual novel for quite a while now. I guess I've been lucky enough to play visual novels with at least some voice acting all the way, either partially or all the way through. So a little weird having to do this again, doing every single thing and every single part, and reading every single line. But yeah, I mean, so far it's cute. Apparently, this is like a family-style visual novel. It's very safe and has a, I don't know if it has a family message or anything like that, but it's not meant to be really offensive. It's just meant to be kind of like a very nice, pleasant story. Which, is okay for me to have once in a while. I don't always have to have death and destruction. Got enough of that as it is, I suppose. Anyway, check it out if you want. It looks so far like it'd be a nice little time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.